Hi fantasy managers, welcome to FPL Team Talk. So today we had the last of the sort of big reveals for all the Premier League football clubs. We had Chelsea, Everton, Tottenham, Forest, Leicester. We're going to go through each team and which players that they revealed the prices for. Then we're going to pick out one or two maybe, just to have a quick chat that stood out. It won't be the only conversation. Some of the players that I don't go through, it's not saying I'm dismissing them. I think they're just chats to have another day. So these are just the headlines. If you enjoyed this sort of video, please give it a like, hit that subscribe because we're coming back with you with a lot more content. Just think I'm about ready for the rest of the prices to be revealed. I would like to see that soon, hopefully launch this week. In the meantime, let's stop procrastinating. Let's get on with the video. Okay, the first team that we're going to go through in no particular order is Everton first of all. So their prices came up. Gray at 5.5. You got a Wobie in that midfield. Dele Alli, is this going to be the season he sort of makes a comeback after that big money move to Everton last year? Decore, more of a defensive midfielder, so I'm not particularly interested in him. Then you got also Mikalenko Tarkowski, new signing, coming in 4.5. Good Premiership experience. And Seamus Coleman. But the three players that really stood out were the headline makers for Everton. They picked out Calvert-Lewin at 8 million, Jordan Pickford 4.5, and Gordon at 5.5. Gordon, not particularly tempted at that price, I have to say. And Pickford, with keepers being so cheap elsewhere, I don't think Everton's fixtures or their defence really inspires me to go for them. So the one we're probably going to be picking out as the obvious choice is Calvert-Lewin. Now for 8 million, I don't know. What do you think? He's got obviously a poor injury record last season. With Richarlison gone, you do feel he's going to be on pens. That's the positive news. But who's going to be playing up alongside him, sharing that burden? I'm not sure, as good a player he is, whether he can just lead that line on his own, putting in the chances. Difficult game to start off with at home to Chelsea. Then Villa away. Forest at home looks like a nice game. I'm just not sure. 17 appearances last year. 5 goals, 2 assists. Decent XGI. One thing we know about Calvert-Lewin is that he's going to be absolutely nailed up front for Everton. There's very little. He's got Rondon playing possibly as the only other striker. He's going to be on pens. But for 8 million, I just think there's a lot of better options. I think I'd much rather go for the likes of Havertz, who's around the same price. Then you've got the likes of Nunes for an extra million. 8 million, I just don't think I'm tempted enough. Unless Everton suddenly start splashing more cash with that Richarlison and boosting and bolstering the rest of their side. Calvert-Lewin, it just doesn't appeal to me, I'm afraid. Next up then, we'll have a look at Tottenham. Now, there are obviously a lot of assets that we'd be interested in here. Kulusevski, after his season last year, coming in at 8. Got Bentancur, Højbjerg, both 5.5 million. Lloris coming at 5.5. That was expected after we saw the likes of Alisson coming in. Defensively, Doherty, if he's back and fit, 5 million, not a bad price. Dyer and Romero, but Doherty obviously will offer much more attacking threat. Sessegnon at 4.5. It'd be interesting to see. He finished the season due to injuries to other players quite strongly, and his XGI was really good. If he gets a place in that side, and again with the rotation in Champions League, maybe we'll see enough of him. But that's going to be the worry for me. But Sessegnon's definitely one on my radar. 4.5. He looks like a really option. If he's playing in that Tottenham side, he's definitely one that I'd like to look at. The obvious three that we wanted to see: Kane coming at 11.5 million, Son at 12. I think it's probably the first time more expensive, and Perisic was the other one at 5.5. So let's start and have a little look at these three. Perisic 5.5, and the big question wasn't really how much was he going to come in with. It was what position was he going to come in. He has played a wing-back for Inter the last couple of years, and that is what he's being classed as in this version. He is a defender, which is great news. 35 appearances last year, 8 goals, wow, and 7 assists. So he's been most of his career has obviously been spent much further forward, being sort of downgraded, I don't want to use that word, but he's been pulled back a bit, and as a wing-back, 0.43 is fantastic. As a wing-back, if he was to produce that in the Premier League, it would be right up there with the likes of Trent, with the likes of James, as being one of the most highest expected goal involvement for any defender in the game. 5.5, obviously you're saving $500,000. It is a Tottenham side, a lot tighter. Would you say they're as good as Chelsea's defence? I don't think I would at this moment in time. But Perisic, he's definitely one to have a look on the radar. How often will he play? Where will the priority be? Will he say he's nailed? I'm saying nailed. I don't think he's come to play a bit part, but he is 33. I don't think he's going to be wheeled out for 3 games every 10 days. He definitely offers an attacking threat. He's down as a defender, and the price is good. My only worry is they've got a few options with Royale, and they play on the other side, but Sessegnon playing it, and Doherty. So they've got a few, Reguilon as well. They've got a few options there. Are they all going to just get rotated to save legs? And you think if one person's going to be saving their legs, it's going to be Perisic, who's the older player. So that's my only clouded doubt. But if he plays again like Session, wow, what an option he could be. Remembering all those figures are from Serie A though, so how transferable across in the Premier League, we'll just have to wait and see. But he's definitely one on the watch list. The other two clearly we need to talk about is Heung-min Son, 12 million. What a season he had last year. 35 games, he's absolutely nailed up front. 23 goals, highest score, 7 assists, great XGI of 7.3. He's going to be absolutely nailed up front for Tottenham. The only problem I have, the only concern I have, not in terms of returns, absolutely brilliant. His form is right up with the rest. The price is expensive, and the effect of Richarlison, is that going to affect his returns? Is some of those goals going to be taken away, or are they just going to score more goals? So I definitely would take an eye on that. For me, the fixtures look decent. Southampton at home is quite a nice game. 12 million is quite a high price for him, though, I think. Talking of which, then, we move on to Harry Kane. 11.5 million for Kane. Same as you get for Haaland. Decent fixtures again. We all know what he's capable of. A better XGI than Son, but obviously he's playing as a striker. So nailed up front. I say nailed. Will he share time with Richarlison, do you think? I mean, I suspect Richarlison play on one side, Son on the other. But someone's going to have to give. Possibly he will get rests when that's possibly available. Price, I'm not sure. I just don't know. Is he a good option? I'm going to have to really crunch these numbers and think about this. Nailed, returns, stats, all of that. Not concerned about the fact that he just doesn't score in August and all that malarkey. Doesn't concern me. I'm not taking that into factor. But he's always a good option. Do you go against Kane? Really tricky. Or do you go with Haaland? I don't think you could fit them both in. Be an exciting side if you could, though. Next up, we have the Eagles. We have Crystal Palace. Some interesting players to look at in this team. If Mateta starts playing up front regularly, he could be a real good option at 5.5. Elise as well, 5.5, very attacking, and you've got lots of Hughes. Guaita, interesting to see if he gets any minutes. Now, Johnson's been signed, 4.5. Guay, Mitchell Anderson, all defenders, 4.5. Remember, Palace, so good defensively last season. Their stats on expected goals conceded was very low. Only the likes of Liverpool and Man City topping that. So there's certainly interesting assets to look at. And Tompkins, 4 million. I think it's one of the first 4 million defenders that I've seen so far. I'd expect a few others. But is that Palace suggesting that he's going to be one of their first 11? If that's the case, he suddenly becomes a real option and an enabler for us. Some of the headliners, though, clearly we're all expecting Zaha. He comes in at 7. Eze, what a season he had, 5.5. And Edouard, 5.5 as well. So him coming in at the same price as Mateta does make it interesting. Which one of them is going to get a nod, play the more minutes up front? Whoever does get that nod, 5.5, looks like a real bargain. The one player that we'll focus on in this video, I think we'll just go look at Zaha, 7 million. The problem with Zaha, not the appearances, not the XGI, not his output. It's just going to be those fixtures. Arsenal at home, and yes, I know what he did last year at home to Arsenal. They absolutely battered them towards the end of last season. But then away at Liverpool, Villa at home, and City doesn't look a nice start at all for Crystal Palace. Does then get slightly better with the Brentford fixture at home. Zaha, possibly the only one I'd go for. 7 million. He does offer a better alternative, or a cheaper alternative, I should say, to the likes of Maddison, Saka, even Bernardo, Foden, all of those. But 7 million nailed, absolutely decent price. Fixtures, it's horrible. We know he's on penalties, but again, I'm not saying perhaps I would go for him from the start, but later on the season, he definitely becomes an option as someone I'd look out for. So Zaha, pick of the bunch for me. Next up then, let's have a look at Nottingham Forest, newly promoted side. Some of these players do have Premiership experience before, including Lewis Cook at the back. Not sure I'll be interested particularly in too many Forest defenders at this moment in time. Yates had a decent season in midfield, so he may be one to have a look at. Sturridge playing up front as well again. Lots of Worrell coming at 4.95. The rest of them coming at 5. The players that would most interest me at this moment in time, I think, are I'm going to go with the pronunciation of Awoniyi at 6 million and Johnson at 6 million. Cafu 4.5. But again, I'm going to be just focusing on Johnson, Awoniyi. Johnson just signed a new contract. I want to be a great sort of big signing all the way from Union Berlin, over 17 million, something like that. And he comes with a bit of a reputation. And previously at Liverpool, great season last year, 31 games, 15 goals, only 1 assist, but just dealing in goals, and that's what we like as an FPL asset. His XGI, it looks really impressive at 0.69. You have to bear in mind that isn't in Bundesliga, so we have to take that into consideration. Perhaps not the strongest from what we've seen of other assets coming across to the Premier League, but he's not playing for one of the fancy sides. He's not playing for Borussia Dortmund or Bayern Munich. Union Berlin had a great season, but him leading the line up against, leading the line for Union Berlin, really impressive stats. Can he sustain it? You look at those fixtures, and that's what I think puts me immediately off them. Newcastle being right away from home, that would be tricky, you would have thought. Then you've got the likes of West Ham, Tottenham, and Man City, all in the first 5 games, 3 of them away. That looks like a tough start to the season for Nottingham Forest. Put into factor there's already a newly promoted side, they're going to take a while to adjust. All these factors really put me off him. You would think he's nailed, the price is decent. If I'm scratching around for a £6 million forward that I think is going to be nailed up front, possibly he would then start to enter my thoughts. I've had a conversation about whether he takes penalties. I know he took a couple of penalties last year for Union Berlin and put them away. Been sort of reliably informed by a Forest fan that actually Johnson's on penalties, signed a new contract as well. So be interesting to see who gets that. I can't even sort of rely on Awani getting those. 6 million, if no one else really jumped out, I think he would be the one at the moment I would go for. But it's not someone I'll be particularly excited to with those fixtures. When they do turn in week 7, 6 and 7, I think maybe he'll be on our radar and we'll have a few more ideas about what Forest are about. The last team that we're going to have a look at, and there's a lot to talk about with them as well, is Leicester City. Inacio, been an FPL legend from a couple of years back. His XGI has always been really strong. It's just whether he can get a run of games in this Leicester side that's been a problem. His minutes. Tillemans linked with a move away, 6.5, but pretty much nailed it in that Leicester midfield. Possibly an option if you definitely want someone who's going to play every week. Then you got the likes of Daka, Dewsbury Hall signing a new contract. He played a lot of minutes in the last season. We know all about the likes of Schmeichel, Justin back from injury, Fofana. Maybe a good season for him. Ricardo Pereira out of all of those, I do like the look of him, 4.5. But it is a worry. That Leicester squad looks quite big. Who's going to get the nod and the minutes? The big headline players then we're looking at really, James Maddison, what a season he had. Jamie Vardy, is he getting any older? And Harvey Barnes as well. Those 3 players are really going to be the ones on our radar. I'm going to leave Vardy for another day, and I definitely think there's a conversation about him worth having because he's been so consistent over the last few years. James Maddison, we definitely have to talk about. The fixtures very mixed. You've got Brentford at home and Southampton at home. In between that, you've got Arsenal away. Then you go to Chelsea and Man U. First 3 games, don't suppose I'd mind taking a punt on him for 8 million then, but then I'd certainly be looking to go off him for those next 2 games. 35 appearances, top score for him, 12 goals, 8 assists, good XGI, very much in favour. He's on set pieces. He just looks a really good player and asset. Without the European rotation, because Leicester have no European football next year, you do feel that Rodgers will just end up playing his first 11 every week. There won't be so much rotation, and surely Maddison's going to be a part of that. Surely he'll be nailed in there. Fixtures, like I said, are a problem. The price point as well, 8 million, there's a lot of choices. You go Bowen for an extra 0.5. You've got the likes of Mahrez, you've got the likes of Foden knocking around, even Bernardo Silva, and the likes of Saka. Possibly with better longer-term fixtures at the start of the season. I think Maddison may come onto the radar. If you're going to have him, do you want to book a transfer in that 4th week? I'm not sure I do. But he's definitely one who's got to be on the radar and one to look at. Next one up as well, simply because the price point's a little bit different. You can save £1 million and go for Barnes. Again, fixture's obviously the same. 6 goals, 10 assists. XGI very, very similar. He did play a similar amount of games, but many more from the bench for Harvey Barnes. So for an extra £1 million, do you risk going down to him? I don't think you get the same. If I was going to pick between the 2 at the same price, Maddison would win every day. And I'm not sure how much in favour he is with Brendan Rodgers. It just feels like he's in and out and so much competition without the rotation. Who is going to get that spot? I mean, the likes of Perez haven't even been discussed. So Daka, Perez, you've got lots of Vardy. Obviously, Maddison, he's competing the same place. You've got lots of Tillemans, Inacio. It just feels like a lot of Leicester players. So I'd want a bit more clarity about his position in that side. Will he be getting the minutes before putting him into the side? But other than that, 7 million looks a decent price for him. That's all for this one then. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. We'll be coming back at you hopefully later on in the week when we've had all of the prices revealed. We'll have a look at maybe a deep dive later on in the coming weeks as to different players, different teams starting to put drafts together. So don't miss out on any of that. In the meantime, take care. Good luck. Speak to you soon.